Have you ever experienced a moment so painful that it completely changed the way you saw someone you loved? A moment when you realized that the person you sacrificed everything for no longer saw your value the way you saw theirs? My name is Daniel Brooks. I'm 69 years old, and for most of my life, being a father was the role I was proudest of. After my wife passed away, it was just me and my son, Ethan. I worked long hours, picked up extra shifts, and made more sacrifices than I can count to make sure he had opportunities one never had. I never viewed it as a burden. That's what parents do. They give without expecting anything in return. So when Ethan called me a few months ago to tell me that he and his wife, Jessica, had purchased their dream home, I couldn't have been happier. I felt proud watching him reach a milestone I had always hoped he would achieve. A few weeks later, I heard they were planning a large housewarming celebration. Family members, friends, neighbors, co-workers, everyone seemed excited about it. Naturally, I assumed I would be there too. 3 days before the event, I called Ethan and casually asked what time he wanted me to arrive. The silence on the other end of the phone felt strange. Then he cleared his throat and told me something I never expected to hear. He said they were over capacity and had decided not to invite me. At first, I laughed because I genuinely thought he was joking. But he wasn't. The words hit me harder than I can describe. I wasn't asking for special treatment. I wasn't demanding attention. I was simply his father. Yet somehow, there was room for everyone except me. I ended the call politely and wished him well, but that night I sat alone in my living room trying to understand how things had changed so much. Later, I saw pictures from the party online. The backyard was packed with guests, but there was still plenty of space. That's when the painful truth became impossible to ignore. There had always been room for me. They just didn't want me there. That realization hurt more than the rejection itself because it forced me to ask a question I never thought I'd ask: when did I stop being important to my own son? A week passed, and although I tried to move forward, the hurt never really left. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Ethan's name. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Part of me hoped he was calling to apologize. Maybe he had reflected on what happened and wanted to make things right. Instead, after a few minutes of awkward small talk, he finally revealed the real reason for his call. "Dad, I need your signature." Just like that. No apology. No acknowledgement of the housewarming incident. No concern about how I felt. He explained that the bank had encountered an issue with the mortgage and needed an additional guarantor before approving some final paperwork. He sounded calm and confident, almost as if my agreement was guaranteed. As though excluding me from one of the biggest celebrations of his life was something I should simply forget. I listened quietly while disappointment settled deeper inside me. Then I answered with 6 words that changed the entire conversation. "Ask the people who replaced me." The silence that followed was immediate and heavy. For the first time since the call began, Ethan had nothing to say. A few seconds later, I hung up. The moment I did, I felt the familiar guilt that parents often feel when they stand up for themselves. But another part of me remembered sitting alone while strangers celebrated inside my son's new house. A few days later, my sister Linda stopped by. She had attended the party and was shocked when she learned I hadn't been invited. What she told me explained everything. According to Linda, Jessica had been concerned about appearances. She wanted the gathering to impress certain wealthy friends and influential people. In her eyes, I didn't fit the image she wanted to present. Hearing that didn't make me angry. It made me sad. Even worse, Linda revealed that Ethan and Jessica were struggling financially. The expensive home, luxury furniture, renovations, and upgrades had stretched their finances to the limit. Suddenly, Ethan's request made perfect sense. The bank wasn't looking for a signature because it was convenient. They needed security. They needed someone responsible. Someone dependable. Someone who had spent decades building stability. They needed me. Yet the only time they remembered my value was when they needed something I could provide. Several evenings later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Ethan was standing there alone. He looked completely different from the confident man I had spoken to on the phone. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes were tired, and the stress on his face was impossible to miss. I invited him inside, and for several minutes neither of us spoke. Then he finally broke the silence. "Dad, I messed up." His voice cracked as he said it. For the first time since all of this started, I saw genuine regret. Not regret because of the mortgage. Not regret because the bank needed help. Real regret for how he had treated me. Ethan admitted that he had become too focused on impressing people. He wanted approval, status, and the appearance of success. Along the way, he stopped appreciating the people who had always been there for him. He told me that Jessica had become obsessed with creating a perfect image and that the decision to exclude me had been driven largely by that mindset. But he also admitted something more important: he had allowed it to happen. He could have defended me. He could have said no. Instead, he stayed silent. I listened carefully and then asked him one simple question. "If the bank wasn't involved, would you be sitting here right now?" The question hit him hard. He stared at the floor for a long time before finally answering. "Probably not." The honesty hurt, but I respected it because healing begins with truth, not excuses. Over the following weeks, Ethan began making changes in his life. Not financial changes, personal ones. He started setting boundaries, standing up for himself, and valuing relationships over appearances. Eventually, they found a solution to their mortgage problem without my signature or my money. Some lessons can only be learned through consequences. Months later, Ethan invited me to a small family barbecue. This time, when I arrived, he greeted me at the front door himself. In front of everyone, he raised his glass and said, "The most important person here is someone I almost pushed away forever." Then he looked directly at me and added, "And that's the biggest mistake I've ever made." In that moment, I knew he finally understood something that takes many people a lifetime to learn: the people who stand beside you during your hardest years deserve a place beside you during your best years too.